What's up YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be installing a 2-disc clutch. This video is going to be solely for how to install a 2-disc clutch. If you want to see how to install a transmission as well as like a shifter, go ahead and check out one of these videos. If you want a detailed explanation installation process of the MT82, the shifter, and the 2-disc, twin disc, go ahead and click up one of these videos. But this video alone is going to be specifically for the RXT? The RXT 1200. Alright, this is going to go in Kev's car. His Instagram is going to be somewhere on the screen. Go ahead and check him out. Leave him a follow, leave him a like, do something like that. So first step is we're just going to pull the car into the freaking garage and we're going to get it going. Alright, let's do this. Let's do it. Alright, with the car in, first step, pop the hood. Step 1. Complete. Now we just gotta jack it up, which will take about 30 minutes or so. Ooh, Ooh, she's hot. Nice. That's a funny intake. You know what I just realized? Your funny looking intake's gonna make getting those top bolts a lot harder.
Oh yeah.
What a silly thing. Now that we've got the car off the ground, she's level, she's good to go. It's time to start the painstaking process of pulling out the transmission. Dude, I can't see you at all. There you are. Alright, with all this off, what'd you do? Anyways, with all the bolts off, finally ready to pull the transmission off, and just hope we don't break anything. Now that you've got the transmission out, you've bled, you've sweat, you've said some no-no words, time to install the 2-disc clutch. Nice! Finally at the good part, the fun part of actually installing this clutch that looks really nice, but you should hopefully never see it again. There's a few things that we need to be aware of before we start putting it on. One is the alignment marks. There's an alignment mark on the pressure plate, on the floater, and on the flywheel. Those all need to align once we're done. The second thing that we need to be aware of is the orientation or the position of the hardware on the actual whatnot here. You've got the orientation of the nut, looks like a washer here, and then another washer, and then this stud here, and then underneath that stud, there's like kind of shims. These are all put to a specific height. They say not to mess these up at all, so we'll just make sure that we do that. So with the first disc taken off, on this one you can see that it says flywheel side. On the other side it also says top. Alright, so this one's going to be your top one, and this one's going to be your bottom one. This one also on the flip side says flywheel side. If you're using a different brand, it might say engine side or something like that, but the flywheel and the engine are going to be in the same direction. As I've taken off the top disc here, and I've taken off the pressure plate, what I'm now gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and start putting the nuts and the washers back on in the exact spots that they came off. That way when we go to put them on, these spacers down here don't go flying anywhere we don't want them to. Same thing for the floater plate and the second disc. And we're gonna go ahead and put the lock washer and the nut back on so that we can keep all these spacers exactly where they're supposed to be when we go and put the flywheel onto the actual crank. There we go. Try and line it up the best as possible. You can rotate it and make sure all the bolts line up. So it may look all lined, but all but one will be aligned. So you just gotta make sure it's in the right spot. Once you've got it aligned, go ahead and put a few dabs of blue thread locker on there. You shouldn't feel any resistance when you're hand tightening it in.
Yep. Went all the way in.
Cool beans. Now that we've got all the bolts hand tightened in, we're gonna go ahead and take our trusty torque wrench here set to 56 pound-feet of torque. We're gonna go ahead and apply some good old torque measures. There's two ways that you can keep the flywheel from turning. The first way is to go on the crankshaft and have someone hold it while you apply your good old pressure here. What we're going to attempt, we're gonna take our nice little crow pry bar and we're gonna slide her up around, where's my finger? Right there. Get the pry bar to go into these teeth here. Now these teeth are what the starter grabs onto, You don't have to be too worried about these teeth. There's so many of them. And you don't really have to worry about breaking them, but ideally you don't want to break them, but if it happens, it happens. All right, so before you put the first disc onto the floater, you're gonna go ahead and clean our little flywheel here, because oftentimes it's shipped with oil to prevent rusting and whatnot, which will cause a little bit of slippage in our clutch. Now let's see it. Now that's why we clean it. Cool, with that being said, with that done, we take our little disc again, we throw it on up there. Now we take our floater disc and we do the exact same thing as we have to clean this one too. Cool, with it all cleaned up, make sure that we take our floater plate right here with our little paint mark, and that side is facing away from the flywheel, and we're gonna line it up with the paint mark that's on the flywheel at the top there. The next step before we can actually put them on, we're gonna take these bolts off right here. It's just gonna be the bolt, and for the spacer, it's only going to be the lock nut, the locking washer. Cool beans. So once these are all hand tight, we'll go ahead and torque them down to 25 good old foot-pounds. Pounds of torque, torque. All right, once they're all torqued down, we should be able to have this and just spin it freely, just like that. Easy day. If there's any binding or whatever, these might be too tight, and you want to go ahead and take them off, retorque them, figure out what's going on. But this seems to be doing A-okay. The last one, we got our top one here. Note that it says flywheel side. Make sure that it goes towards the flywheel. I would say we go ahead and wipe this one down again, just because we had our fingers on it when we were doing our tightening here. So we're gonna go ahead and spray it again. Now that we've got that, we're gonna slide this one back in, and this will help us align both clutches. This will make it a lot easier when we go to put back the transmission. So if it's not going in, that means you have the splines here are not matching the splines on the bottom one. So just rotate it without applying too much pressure until the splines align. You'll feel it when it lines in. Yep, just like that. Shouldn't have to force it in, it should just glide right in. With that being said, we've got the last part that we need to clean, and that's the contact area for our pressure place here. Next step before we can throw her up there is you gotta take off all these bolts. Correct. When we take these bolts off, remember that we only want the actual nut here, the locking washer, and the top washer. We don't want anything else to come off too. All the bolts are off in a nice little spot. This is clean. Let's go ahead and put her up.
The labels.
Right, so we've got the paint mark here, matched on the paint mark on the floater plate and on the actual flywheel. Beautiful. Now I'll hand you the bolts. And lastly, once you've got all the bolts hand tightened, you're gonna go ahead and knock them down to 35 foot-pounds, pounds-feet of torque. Quick bonus tip here. After we've done the clutch, I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to install this McLeod braided wire thing. What we did was we took the old existing clutch line right here, we attached the new one, the braided one, and we wrapped it with electrical tape. That way we could come up here, we could find the clutch line, and we pulled it up, and that brought our braided clutch line up. Then we're gonna follow it the rest of the way. Follow the line all the way back down here. It's to the right of the master cylinder, and it's right back. Where'd it go? Went ahead and removed this little sound thing that was right here, since we don't even use it anyways. And I can get a better shot now. Right there, you can see the metal clip that I already popped out with this tiny screwdriver. Once that's all the way out, you just pull the hose and it comes right out. And that's it. Just like that, you got a clutch installed, you got your braided clutch line. Last thing to do is install the transmission, drive shaft, axle, mid-pipe, your shifter, and then lower the car. That's it. We've already done all that except lower the car. But that's it. Make sure that you brake in your clutch. I think the recommended amount is about 500 miles or about 1,200 to 1,400 engagements. So if you're braking it in on city, it's gonna be a lot better than braking it on the highway. You're just gonna use the clutch a lot less on the highway. Make sure to pump your clutch a shit ton before you even try to drive anywhere, get that pressure built up again. As you can tell, this video took a lot of time and effort to make. So if you liked it, it helped you out, or you like Batman, go ahead and leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you want to, it's completely free. You can always change your mind later. Until next time, deuces.